Hi, welcome to Infinity Warrior. How are you feeling today? Are you having a great day? Or are you having a frustrating day? Are you having a sad day? Or did the mere question make you go, ugh, don't ask me that? Or did it make you want to cry? I hope you are having a fabulous day. And I say hope, well, no, I don't like the word hope, but hope used appropriately, sending out a little blessing for your day. I have faith that you will continue to grow and deepen your journey and have more and more and more days where it's filled with light and laughter and less ugh, hide in the back seat of the car kind of day. So this morning, I went for a walk with my dog. Now, I've been doing this for 3 days and incredibly blessed. Giant, great white Pyrenees, such a blessing. He's a gorgeous dog, so intelligent. And today, when we got down on the bumpity, we call it the bumpity road. When we got down on the bumpity road, it's a little more remote, less traffic. And you have a perfect view of the valley, the sun coming up from behind the Cascade Mountain Range. And as the sun, the sky was just lit up with color. It was beautiful. As the sun began to peek over the mountain, I made him stop. Now, he wasn't too happy, to be honest. He kind of looked at me like, really? Again? And I looked back at him like, yeah, we're going to stop. So here in Oregon, this January, it has been bright and sunny, but frozen. So the mornings are ice crystals and speckled ice everywhere. And as the sun began to peek over the mountain, right? So if you've ever gotten up early and watched a sunrise or watched it from the comfort of a home, you know that moment where the sun just says good morning and it just starts to climb. I stood in the sunlight this morning, in the freezing, ice crystalled sunlight, with my arms spread wide and my heart, my mind, my body turned towards the sun and just received the light. And I let that light and energy flow into me as though I were drinking water after walking in the desert. It actually felt like magic filling me up. It felt like magic filling me up. Now, I am a 52-year-old woman who likes sunsets and sunrises. This was not a new occurrence for me to watch a sunrise. And yet this was the first one in my life. I'm going to change that. Probably when I was about 7, 8, 9, probably went through a more bold stage of knowing myself. And I remember feeling the light like this. I remember something similar to this. I felt the light and the magic just washed through me. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that the universe and I were aligned. That no matter what came my way today, I would have no fear. And as the sun, the whole round ball of the sun came up over that mountain, far away mountain, across the valley. And I turned back to walking the dog, much to his delight, because he was quite done with me. But as I turned back to the crunchy road, because it was frozen, every single step that I took from that point forward to all the way getting home, I gave gratitude and I gave thanks. I held myself open to the possibility of goodness, of receiving blessings, of being open to flows of energy that are positive and light-filled, to being happy at who I am, at the fact that I snort laugh. Because at the end of the day, it's just another part of me. And I am only as good as I think I am. And I been pretty magical. But that didn't come easy. And this journey that we're going to take on an Infinity Warrior, a publication of Infinity Nation, is all about discovering and finding your magic. And it's a little bit led through the eyes of discovering my magic, right? Unpacking our trauma and healing from it, looking at it for the real tangible thing that it is. And we're going to stand and face that trauma with our arms open wide, and we're going to look that fear in the eye, and we're going to deal with the fear. Because we will not be afraid, and we have confidence in ourselves and in our abilities. That is the mission of Infinity Warrior and Infinity Nation. So knowing that today we're going to work on yours, mine, the universe's possibility of self, possibility of seeing ourself as magic, as receiving ourselves of magic, walking through our day knowing that we are blessed beyond measure. That every experience we have, whether Nita deems an experience good or Nita deems an experience bad, she has a role in that experience. And the more that I begin to accept that and welcome my role in the outcome, good or bad, right? Again, defined by me. The more that I walk that path, the more conscious of the magic energy and gratefulness that I receive. I literally, like, if people were out in their yards this morning listening to me, I was like, literally like walking the dog, who's really big and really powerful, and I was stumbling a little bit. So you can imagine how goofy that looked. And yet I continued to just keep one palm open to the sun and just say, I am light, I am energy, I am beautiful, I am vibrant, I am flowing with goodness. I will not falter in the face of my fears. I will not give in to my, fears. Again, fear played a lot, only in the fact that I was saying I will not. I also had a conversation with the universe around money and financial security and financial independence and having a healthy relationship with money, because let's get it straight. At the end of the day, if you are facing money worries, money is just a tool. Money is just a tool. It is not the universe. It is not the controlled almighty power in your world. Just throwing that out there, because on my morning walk, let's get real, I'm a divorcing single mom with 4 kids and, a house in disrepair, a car in the shop. The reality is there's never enough money for anybody, right? But my frequency, my ability to attract or repel money is entirely up to how I want to think about it. If I want to worry about never having enough, well, then that's all I'm ever going to do is worry about never having enough. So this morning, while walking on the crunchy frozen ground, feeling the beautiful light all surrounding me and flowing through me, I thanked the universe for a healthy respect and flow of everything that I need. I have a home, I have power, I have comforts, I have food, I can keep my children clothed and fed, and gas in all of our cars. Well, mine's at the shop, so it's not using a lot of gas, but that's beside the point. My point is having a healthy conversation with yourself about all the things that are positive and all the things that you're blessed with will help your mindset. Here today on Infinity Warrior, we are going to cover a chapter in the book, The Possibility Principle. Now, if you head over to my Instagram, infinity_nation_, you will see a quick live, 15-minute live that I did today, where I discussed one sentence in this book. One sentence in The Possibility Principle by Schwartz. And it's just so powerful and profound. Now, we're going to do an entire chapter minus, here it is, wait for it. We're going to minus out the scientific paragraphs because there's 1.5 pages that is purely the discovery of this possibility principle. And personally, it's very interesting, but it's not what we need to focus our time on today. So hold on for the break, and let's come back, and we're going to read why we need to embrace uncertainty. Why we need to embrace uncertainty. That's the chapter we're going to read in the possibility principle today. And we're going to cover that, and then at the end we'll discuss it a little bit. But if you think about my walk this morning, walking on ice, because it was frozen, everything in my life is uncertain. I have a house in disrepair. I'm trying still, after 2 and a third years, to divorce. I have a car in the shop. The list goes on and on and on. I'm building a brand new business. I just left 2 budding yet successful businesses and stepped out on my own for the first time in my life. I have my health just recovering from COVID, pneumonia, and bronchitis. So everything in my life, I could fall back over there and say, oh God, it's all so uncertain and I just don't know. Yet this morning on that crunching ice, feeling the basking universe kiss me with its morning rays, there was nothing more certain in my life than that every possibility, every dream I've ever dreamed is right at my fingertips. If I'm courageous enough to believe I'm worthy of it. Stick around, and we'll delve into that after the break. Welcome back to Infinity Warrior. Let's dive right into Chapter 2 of The Possibility Principle by Mel Schwartz. We are going to read why we need to embrace uncertainty. Many of us are enraptured by spectator sports because of the thrill of not knowing the outcome. After all, how exciting would it be to watch the replay of the game if we already knew who won? We may read an intriguing book or go to a suspenseful movie to seek the excitement of the unknown. Mysteries and thrillers captivate us because we don't know how they'll turn out. Some people play games of chance or the lottery because, while they hope to win, they cannot be certain that they will. Our uncertainty is what engages us and, at times, makes us feel spellbound. Uncertainty drives a substantial percentage of the entertainment industry and the U.S. gross national product. The uncertain presents limitless possibilities and attracts our full attention. It allows us to be present and enlivens our lives. Yet, here's the paradox. We often seek these exciting, uncertain experiences as compensation for living lives dulled by our need for certainty and predictability. A need that tends to rule our thinking and our decision-making. When we become addicted to this need, we live out our lives in a formatted way, less present and less mindful than we could be. Being bound up in the straitjacket of certainty makes us like a character in a novel for whom the plot is already written. We're simply living according to our script. As explained in Chapter 1, uncertainty is one of the keystones of the new quantum science and directly challenges our old world view that has us value certainty and predictability. The strong appeal of uncertainty in sports and entertainment should be a clue to how much we might gain if we reconsider our relationship with certainty. Over the years, of my working with people in therapy and facilitating workshops, it has become clear to me that our attachment to certainty can have debilitating consequences. I have encountered so many people whose struggles with anxiety and depression are caused by being overly wed to certainty. How the need for certainty provokes anxiety. Tom came to see me seeking help for his self-described anxiety disorder. He held down an executive-level job and supported his family well, yet he had no peace of mind, let alone joy. He was deluged by his fear of not knowing what the future held. His need for certainty overwhelmed him. As he was preparing for a presentation at work, he became distressed by the uncertainty of what lay ahead of him. How would this talk be received? What questions might be asked of him? Was he sufficiently prepared? Tom's worries had a negative impact on his work, as the very thing he feared, a mediocre performance at his job, accompanied by a gloomy aspect that turned off coworkers, was precisely what he was creating. At home, Tom questioned whether his wife would love him in the future, turning her off as she understandably pulled back from him. In essence, Tom was addicted to seeking the assurance that certainty might provide. I've come to see that anxiety disorders are often correlated to our demand for certainty. The greater our dependence on predictability, the more we experience anxiety. What Tom couldn't see was that this level of certainty and predictability is not only elusive, but also, in most cases, undesirable. To live in such a way precludes spontaneity or creativity, which require your mind to be in the present moment. Tom's troubles, like countless other people's, were unconsciously informed by his operating worldview. As I've said, the roots of our dependence on certainty go back more than 300 years to Isaac Newton's 17th century worldview and its core pillar of determinism. Newton saw reality as composed primarily of objects, and all objects, including humans, as separate and distinct from one another. This worldview proposed that with sufficient present measurements, we could determine the future. Think of a billiard ball striking another ball and causing it to carom off the side of the pool table. With precise calculation, we can predict where the ball will make contact with the next object, be it in a side cushion, a pocket, or another ball. Plot the entire unfolding sequence of events. This construct sets up an arrow from past to present to future, imposing a cause and effect view of reality through which present conditions order the circumstances of the future. As a result, we lose our autonomy, and our human consciousness is subverted to being no more than a billiard ball struck by a cue stick. Tom's thoughts were the equivalent of the ball following its predictable path in an attempt to ferret out the future. Romance, like sports and mysteries, is another area of life where we can easily see how certainty imprisons us. The wondrous feeling of falling in love is an immersion into the unknown. It's rich in adventure and discovery and the uncertainty that underscores the sense of eros. I feel like I love her, but I'm not sure if she loves me. So the uncertainty has me hang on her every word and facial expression. But once we secure the relationship, romance tends to wither as we become less present to each other. We think we know in advance how our partners will act or respond. We finish their thoughts for them mentally and sometimes verbally. even before they conclude their sentences. As a result, sexual intimacy loses vitality and passion with the repetitive formatting and predictability of the encounter. If a couple knows that their lovemaking will take place on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock, perhaps after dinner and a glass of wine, and the intimate interaction always occurs as predicted, then it's not surprising that they begin to lose passion. And if the encounter doesn't occur as expected, that can lead to problems too. They can either resign themselves to a life of decreasing intimacy or begin a potentially damaging search for passion elsewhere, seeking certainty with regard to honesty, fidelity, who's preparing dinner, and what time to pick up the kids from playdates makes life run smoothly. But subjecting matters of the heart and soul to the template of mechanistic certainty can lead to boredom and frustration. Consider the word uncertain. Does it evoke neutral, negative, or positive feeling? I believe that for most of us, the answer is negative. I feel uncertain about my future. Should imply the possibility of a positive future as easily as a negative one. But ordinarily, that statement would be seen as expressing fear or anxiety about what's to come. If I feel certain that my prospects will be disappointing, then uncertainty should provide a bit of relief. And yet we don't use the word uncertain that way because we value certainty. And we are uncomfortable with uncertainty, except at a distance or as spectators. Living life through the directive of certainty and predictability removes much of what it is to be human. After all, wonder and imagination don't comply with formulaic equations. Thank you guys for being patient for my blunders. I'm sending you all mental hugs. This loss of enchantment contributes to any number of psychological and emotional challenges, and in large part to the epidemic of anxiety and depression that our culture struggles with. Albert Einstein immersed himself in the uncertainty of wondering. His imagination peaked. He once wrote that at the age of 16, he pictured himself chasing a beam of light, which ultimately led to his theory of special relativity. Such a breakthrough was possible only by not succumbing to the laws of deterministic universe. When we are grounded in wonder and enchanted by the hopefulness of possibility in our lives, we are far less likely to feel depressed, anxious, or listless. The good news is that uncertainty provides the key to unlock the shackles of determinism. The fear of making the wrong choice. I was working with a highly intelligent college student who had been excelling academically, but on a personal level, Antoine had a deep dread of making what he called a serious mistake. He felt it would be a grievous error to choose the wrong major and career path. He was so immobilized by his fear of making a mistake that he dropped out of school altogether instead of risking a wrong decision. In his trepidation about the uncertainty of his future, he assumed that only one correct path existed. Antoine's acute analyzing of his circumstances caused him to lose touch with his inner voice, his intuitive wisdom. Choosing the right major is certainly an important decision, but it pales in comparison with dropping out of school. Our fears about the future are often focused on what we call outcomes. But an outcome is nothing more than a momentary snapshot that we take in a particular moment. This way of looking at life, living in dread of certain outcomes, is rooted in static picture of Newton's universe. From the perspective of a flowing, participatory paradigm, no such thing as an outcome exists because reality is always continuing to unfold. If we are part of that flow, we can choose differently as we wish, but we must be in the flow. Embracing uncertainty frees us from fear of outcomes. I helped Antoine look at his struggle through new eyes by sharing with him the new worldview of uncertainty, from which the fear of making mistakes is alleviated by the assurance of a multitude of possibilities. Once he could imagine a future that wouldn't have to be narrow, but could widen as he grew, he released his fears and was readmitted to school. To help Tom, the client mentioned earlier, surmount the anxiety caused by his overwhelming need for certainty, I explained the uncertainty principle and the scientific discoveries associated with it, and I shared its metaphorical implications for his fears about the future. He desperately wanted to change, but couldn't as long as he saw the unknown as his enemy. I urged him to consider that the change he sought to overcome his anxiety could only occur if he paradoxically embraced uncertainty. Rather than resist uncertainty, he had to change his relationship with it by envisioning uncertainty as the ground of his genuine being, free from fear. After a number of sessions, Tom took a 1-month hiatus from our meetings. When he came back in, he reported with almost an adolescent's enthusiasm that he felt much better. I asked him to what he attributed the shift. He smiled and said his best friend was now uncertainty. It opened the road to his relief from anxiety. He then added the crowning touch. His new password for his accounts was embrace, as in embrace uncertainty. When we embrace what we fear, the fear dissipates. It loosens its grip on us. Who will I be? Angela had been mired in a loveless and emotionally abusive marriage of 12 years. Despite her pleading with her husband to enter marriage counseling, he continued to denigrate her and refused therapy. She felt depressed and hopeless, and although she often threatened him with divorce, she felt frozen. As she and I moved more deeply into our work together, it became apparent that her attachment to certainty kept her safe from the unknown. Even if that unknown, who would she be as a divorced woman, was where relief might lie, a miserable certainty still felt safer to Angela. This was a clear example of our embedded bias against uncertainty. I asked her to imagine standing with me on the bank of a river. I had her envision the current of the river as the flow of her life. I coaxed her to come into the river with me. Proceeding with the visualization, Angela walked into the river with me, but as we moved toward the middle, where the current became stronger, she reported that she saw herself grabbing onto a large rock. I asked her to let go and embrace the current, to come along for the ride. Balking at this, she looked ahead and saw a bend in the river, protesting, "But I can't see where the river will take me. I need to know." I told her, "We're not supposed to see around the bend." I explained that she was not powerless, but could navigate the currents, her future, making adjustments as required, trusting that her life would evolve as it should, with her at the helm. But it was essential that she enter the current, the metaphorical flow of her life. She needed to accept the fear and uncertainty of what lay ahead of her as a divorced woman rather than the daily dread that she experienced in her marriage. Like many people who anticipate making significant changes, Angela experienced fear when contemplating the question, who would I be? She would certainly be experiencing her life differently, and this provoked further fear. Under her current circumstances, Angela could fault her husband for her unhappiness and continue to feel like the victim. Clinging to an unhappy yet certain state is essential to playing the role of victim. The certainty of the present locked her in despair, but paradoxically kept her from becoming responsible for her own life. However nonsensical it may sound, we often cling to the dysfunction and unhappiness of the certain present to avoid the uncertainty of the future. To use the cliche, we choose the devil we know. As I helped Angela to envision the ways she would like to experience her life, with neither the weight of a disastrous marriage nor the fear of the unknown, she became excited by the possibilities. It took her a while, but she finally freed herself from both her fear of uncertainty and her destructive marriage. When you struggle with unsatisfactory or troublesome aspects of your life, ask yourself, how is my fear around the unknown and its uncertainty getting in the way of my change process? Imagine yourself welcoming and embracing the uncertainty, and you'll gain a sense of self-empowerment that can free you from the grip that certainty may have on you. Riding the wave of change. The commonly held belief that it's hard to change has its roots in the deterministic view that we are inherent and static, and that moving past our stuck state requires an uphill effort. From the old world view of certainty, Newton's first law of motion might be stated: an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion at the same speed and going in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. When we consider ourselves to be the object, we conclude that we can't move, stop, or change direction unless acted upon by an outside force, that it is hard for us to change. This conclusion makes perfect sense and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because our beliefs around change ordinarily instruct us that it's either difficult to achieve or unwanted, we see change as problematic at best, an anomaly. The exception, not the norm. While change is challenging, and the exception within the mandate of determinism, it's easily accessible and normal if in the quantum worldview. According to quantum physics, all of reality appears to be perpetually recreating itself, to be engaged in a dance of an inexplorable movement. Nothing and no one is fixed and inert. Everything and everyone is part of a never-ceasing dance of reality making. Uncertainty frees us from the harness of determinism and lets us join in the flow of possibilities. Free from the limitations of predictability, possibility invites and requires our participation. To envision and actualize the future we long for, we must view uncertainty as our ally. Well, that was chapter 2 minus a page and a half of purely scientific sightings. And wow, let's just say it. Wow, right? Possibility surrounds us and invites us to the table to dance. Well, I want a seat at that table. I want to embrace that. I am embracing that. I am walking in that. And I want that for you too. That's why I felt today on Infinity Warrior, we were going to do something a little bit different, a little bit new, a little bit edgy while I wait for my guests to line up. And we were going to do a reading. It is important to study. It is important to bring in new ideas. It is important that we be constantly opening our minds, opening ourselves up to the possibility, to the reality that we don't know everything, that there are things we can learn from other people who specialize in other things. So the Possibility Principle by Mel Schwartz, how quantum physics can improve the way you think, live, and love. And I think that chapter 2 summed it up perfectly for today's episode. We have the right, we have the innate right to embrace the uncertain so that we can unlock the possibility of our future. Be delighted in the unknown. Live within, dance within our soul where creativity and expression ignite. There was also a moment in there where it cited something that deeply hit me. Not the domestic abuse part, but before that, where it talked about when we're locked in certainty, we're living for the end. And remember Tom? It talked about Tom and how Tom was trying so hard. He just wanted everybody to be happy and everything to go perfect. But he was so caught up in the ending that he was so determined to have the ending that he had in his mind. He was literally killing, destroying, taking all the joy out of, all the living out of his life. And therefore, all the people around him were suffering that same fate. That right there is so applicable across so many levels, not only on my life, but on everybody who has anything to do with, anxiety disorders. Any anxiety disorder, it's like right there, that's the last 50 years of my life, 48, 9, 50 years of my life, right? Not me personally, but in my life, the people in my life were so consumed with the ending. And so I did my very best to get to the ending, to pave the path to the ending. And I've been guilty of that myself as a codependent, right? As a codependent, we hear what the ending is going to be, we hear the promise, and then we work like hell to make the ending happen. We lose the reality. Living in the uncertain is where we are free and creative. This chapter perfectly summed up so many of the obstacles that I fought for 3, 4, 5 years to get my head around in therapy. And I'll be honest, I've had this book I shared with you guys today for over a year, and I could not read it until I could read it. I had to come through some major breakthroughs in talk therapy and journaling and classes and courses and independent reading, independent application of these things. I had to do a lot of groundwork to be able to open this book and glean from it what I have in the last month. In the last 30 days, I've taken more from this book than I have for the year that it sat on my counter, my desk, my shelf. So rush right out and get yourself a copy of The Possibility Principle by Mel Schwartz, How Quantum Physics Can Improve the Way You Think, Live, and Love. And I'm excited to hear back from those of you who really deeply enjoy the scientific references of it. Perhaps I'll get to a point in my journey where those are parts that I really dive into, but I'm more of a spiritualist, not a religionist, but I am more open to the energies of the universe and the way that this puts together how we have to let go of our certainties. We have to let go of our need for a certain outcome, our need to know. And going through the life-changing processes that I have been going through in divorce and breaking generational abuse, those kind of things, when I dive into where I was 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, of needing the certain outcome, I was locked in fear of the unknown. When I look backward across the last 2.25 years, 2.3 years of my attempt at divorce, every single thing works out. Everything works out. Everything finds a path. All my time and energy that I spent in fear, shaking sometimes, terrified of the unknown, terrified that the judge would shame me, punish me, judge me, terrified of the unknown. But that isn't the actuality of what happened. What happened was the judge is fair and unbiased and impartial. He looks at all of the facts in front of him, and he makes a ruling and moves us forward. And each time we move forward a little bit further. And I finally gotten to a point where I can just park it all over here on the outer skirts of my flow, my river of energy. And that's what I felt this morning when I stood in the sunlight, right? In that sunrise, I felt my river of energy flowing literally from the start, the dawn of the new day, directly into me and just bursting out of me, expelling all the fear, any residual fear that I might have had, just literally dissolved out of me this morning. Does it mean I'm not going to dip in and out of it? I'm sure that I will at some point. I'm sure that at some point I'll have my feelings hurt and I won't have protected myself, boundaried myself up well enough. I'll have a role in it. But I'm sure that at some point I'll have my feelings hurt and I'll dip back into that fear, but I won't live there. There's the difference. The work that I am doing is creating a foundation and I will not live there. And that is the work that we are going to do together for you. You are a warrior and you are listening to Infinity Warrior because you want to change. You want to find a way to embrace change and step into your own universal flow of possibility. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for rolling your eyes kindly or laughing or giggling or taking a deep breath while I worked out a couple of those sentences or redid a couple of those sentences. There was a point where I found myself giggling because I had made a little mistake and then I caught it and then I kind of bounced back and forth on my error. But life is full of errors and mistakes, and it is what it is. The sooner that you embrace your humanness and that you're fallible, the quicker you're going to move along. Give me a visit over on www.yourinfinitynation.com. Check out the awesome stuff that we're doing over there. We have got under services, go to gift for you, scroll down, and there are now 5 weeks of printables for you. Print those out, do some self-work, some self-love, keep all of those that you print out and you do, and at the end of the year, you can take them out and feel the power of the work that you've done. So head over to www.yourinfinitynation.com. The link is on my podcast. It's on my Instagram and Facebook page. So honestly, I just want to encourage you to do the work. Do the work, keep up the journey, show up next week, and thank you. Thanks for being amazing. Thank you for being open to the possibility that you have the right to be in charge of your life, stand free-flowing in your river of universal energy, and succeed. I'll see you guys next time.